When you first encounter a psychopath or a narcissist, the experience is rarely one of chaos. It's almost always the opposite. They appear charming, confident, decisive, yet they know how to wear the right mask for the right occasion, how to reflect back to you the things you most want to see in yourself, and how to present themselves as the solution to your doubts or insecurities. And this is why so many intelligent, competent people fall into their orbit. The beginning is often dazzling, sometimes intoxicating, but time, that relentless force that strips away pretense, eventually reveals what masks cannot hold forever. Think about it. No performance in life can last indefinitely. The polished surface eventually begins to crack. The well-rehearsed lines start to sound rehearsed. The smile that seemed sincere now appears hollow, and the confidence that once inspired respect gradually shows itself as arrogance, even cruel. Time is the great revealer. It teaches us that consistency is the true measure of character. Anyone can put on an act for a season, but no one can outlast the scrutiny of time. This is why manipulation thrives most in the short term. A narcissist can impress you in a conversation, win you over at a party, or sweep you off your feet in a matter of weeks. A psychopath can present themselves as a bold leader, someone unafraid to take risks, someone who seems to see through the nonsense of the world. But with enough time, the act collapses. Because truth and lies operate differently, truth can withstand time, lies cannot. Truth grows stronger with repetition, while lies fracture under pressure. Time forces both to reveal their nature. Now, this is not just a psychological observation. It's also a philosophical truth about human life. Masks and illusions, no matter how convincing, are temporary. Reality, in contrast, is stubborn. It insists on showing itself eventually. And in this sense, time acts as both a teacher and a judge. It teaches us to be patient, to resist the impulse to decide on appearances alone, and it judges those who try to live through deception, because in the end, they will be exposed. And here's the hard part. When you're caught in the spell of someone manipulative, you don't want to wait. You want the truth immediately. You want certainty now, but often certainty comes only by allowing time to run its course. The danger of rushing is that you end up mistaking intensity for depth, performance for reality. That's why so many people stay in toxic relationships or environments far longer than they should. They confuse the mask for the face. They trust the words instead of watching the patterns. And patterns, unlike words, require time to appear. Think of it like music. A single note can be beautiful, but it tells you nothing about the song. Only when you listen long enough do you understand the melody, the rhythm, the meaning. In the same way, you can't know the truth about a person by their introduction or even their early chapters. You have to observe their melody over time. And if you're listening closely, you will notice when the harmony is false. Time also teaches you something about yourself in this process. It shows whether you have the patience to let truth reveal itself, or whether you are so eager for comfort and certainty that you allow yourself to be deceived. This is where awareness becomes critical. The narcissist and the psychopath depend on your impatience, on your desire for things to be clear and simple. They exploit that urgency, offering quick solutions, bold promises, or intoxicating attention, and it works until time strips it bare. But once you recognize that time unmasks illusion, you stop falling so easily. You begin to trust the slow process of revelation. You stop asking, what do they say? And instead begin asking, what do they show consistently over time? That shift alone is enough to protect you from most forms of manipulation. Because charm doesn't last, false confidence doesn't endure, and deception doesn't age well. This doesn't mean that time makes everything easy, quite the opposite. It requires vigilance, patience, and courage to stand in uncertainty while you wait for clarity. But it also means that you don't have to force truth into the open. It will come out because it always does. Your task is to be awake enough to see it when it does. So when I say time is the beautiful teacher, I don't mean it in a soft, sentimental sense. I mean it in the hard, uncompromising sense that truth needs time to be revealed. Beauty here doesn't mean comfort, it means clarity. Beauty is in the unveiling, in the collapse of illusion, in the realization that reality always wins. And maybe that's the most liberating truth of all. You don't have to unmask everyone yourself. You don't have to expose every liar, decode every manipulator, or prove every deception. Time will do it for you. All you need to do is remain awake, patient, and anchored in your own awareness. Remember this, a mask can fool you for a moment, a season, maybe even a year, but time unmasks all things. It unmasks false love, false strength, false friendship, and false leaders. And once you see that mask fall away, you're no longer trapped in the illusion. You're free to step into reality. So let this be your takeaway. Don't rush to judgment. Don't be seduced by intensity. And don't confuse the mask for the face. Trust time, because time, the most beautiful of teachers, never lies. If time unmasks illusion, it also does something else, something more personal, more intimate. It doesn't just reveal the truth about others, it reshapes the truth within you. Time has this strange duality. On one side, it exposes what is false, and on the other, it transforms what is broken. It is both revealer and healer. And this is where the pain caused by narcissists or psychopaths becomes part of a deeper story, a story about you. Because let's be honest, when you've been hurt by someone manipulative, when you've been deceived, lied to, or emotionally stripped down, the aftermath is not just a set of bruises. It's confusion, it's self-doubt, it's a gnawing question. How did I not see it? That question can torment you. It can make you feel foolish, weak, even complicit in your own suffering. And that's why so many people, after such encounters, close themselves off. They build walls around their trust, they abandon their openness, and they confuse protection with withdrawal. But here's what time teaches. Pain doesn't have to harden you, it can deepen you. The wound, if given time, can become the root of wisdom. The betrayal that once made you feel broken can eventually make you sharper, more discerning, more alive to the subtleties of human nature. This doesn't happen overnight. At first, all you feel is the sting. But slowly, through reflection, through distance, through the steady erosion of raw emotion, time begins to turn pain into perspective. Think of a scar. When the cut is fresh, it burns, it bleeds, it dominates your awareness. But as time passes, it closes, it toughens, and eventually it becomes part of you. Not a mark of weakness, but of survival. The scar is a record of what you endured and what you overcame. In the same way, the emotional wounds inflicted by narcissists and psychopaths can leave scars, but those scars can become maps of wisdom if you allow them to. They can remind you, not of your fragility, but of your resilience. And here's the paradox. Often, the very thing that once threatened to destroy you becomes the catalyst for your strength. People who have been through manipulative relationships, if they allow themselves to learn, often emerge with a clarity that others don't have. They can see red flags others miss. They can sense dissonance in a tone of voice, a mismatch between words and actions, a false note in someone's charm. Their pain sharpens their perception. That is time's work. It takes suffering and reforges it into insight. But this transformation doesn't happen automatically. Time by itself doesn't heal. It's what you do with the time that matters. Some people live 10 years after a betrayal but never heal because they keep feeding the wound with resentment. Others, with the same 10 years, emerge wiser and freer because they use the distance to reflect, to grow, to rebuild themselves. Time offers the possibility of healing, but you must participate in it. You must choose to face the pain, not run from it, to process it, not bury it. And this is one of life's most brutal but beautiful lessons. The wisdom you long for often comes through pain you wish you could have avoided. Time transforms, but it transforms through struggle, through endurance, through the slow process of integration. And that's why survivors of narcissistic or psychopathic abuse, if they endure, often carry with them a kind of grounded wisdom that cannot be faked. They no longer confuse charm for love or arrogance for strength. They know better because time taught them better. No, it's also important to say this: healing through time doesn't mean erasing the memory. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened or absolving the one who caused the harm. Healing means that the memory no longer rules you. It becomes part of your story, but not the whole story. You carry it, but it doesn't crush you. In fact, it shapes you into someone more capable of seeing reality for what it is. There's a deeper psychological truth here. Trauma shrinks your world at first, but over time, if you face it, it can actually expand it. You start to see more, not less. You begin to understand not just the darkness in others, but also the strength in yourself. You recognize that life is not about avoiding pain, but about transforming it into something meaningful. That's the essence of wisdom, learning to turn suffering into insight, and that is why time is the most beautiful of teachers. It doesn't simply soothe your pain, it reshapes it. It chisels away at the rawness until what remains is something solid, something permanent. You become less naive, but also more compassionate. You become more skeptical of appearances, but more appreciative of authenticity. You learn to separate what is real from what is illusion. And all of it comes from what you endured, filtered through the passage of time. So don't curse the time it takes to heal. Don't resent the slow process of recovery. Time is working with you even when you can't feel it. It is softening the pain, turning it into perspective, and weaving it into the fabric of who you are becoming. That's the gift of time. It teaches you that the worst things you experience can become the foundation for your greatest strength. If time unmasks illusion, and if it heals and transforms pain into wisdom, then there is one final truth that cannot be ignored. Time also demands something from you. It demands awareness and it demands responsibility, because time itself is not neutral. It is always moving, always shaping you. And the question is, are you awake enough to let it shape you consciously? Or will you drift unconsciously and pay the price later? People often treat time as if it is infinite, as if it can be wasted casually without consequence. But time is not a currency that refills. Every day that passes is gone forever. That's why awareness is critical. You can either let time deepen your blindness, repeating the same mistakes, tolerating the same manipulations, falling into the same patterns, or you can wake up, reflect, and take responsibility for how you move forward. This is particularly crucial when it comes to dealing with narcissists and psychopaths. If you do not learn, if you do not become aware, then time does not heal you. It traps you. You will keep meeting the same kinds of people, falling into the same dynamics, suffering the same betrayals. Life has a way of repeating lessons until you pay attention. And that is the challenge time sets before you. It asks, are you willing to open your eyes and take responsibility for your growth? Or do you want to live on autopilot until the same wounds break you again? Responsibility here means something deeper than just making choices. It means owning the fact that your life is shaped not only by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. If you were betrayed once, that was not your fault. But if you refuse to learn from it, if you ignore the patterns and rush blindly into the same traps again, then you are abandoning the responsibility that time has given you. Time is an opportunity, but only if you are willing to use it. Awareness is the first step. It is the willingness to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. This is difficult because reality is often painful. It's easier to keep pretending, to keep rationalizing toxic behavior, to keep telling yourself that maybe the person will change, But awareness refuses the lie. Awareness says, no, I see what is happening. I see the pattern. I will no longer look away. And from awareness comes responsibility. Because once you see clearly, you can no longer hide behind ignorance. You must act. That might mean walking away from someone who is destroying you. It might mean setting boundaries that feel uncomfortable. It might mean saying no when every part of you has been conditioned to say yes. Responsibility is heavy, but it is also liberating, because when you take it up, you stop being a victim of time and you start being a steward of it. Philosophically, this is the difference between drifting and living. To drift is to let time carry you like a current, unaware, passive, and unprepared. To live is to take the current and steer it, to use awareness and responsibility to direct your course. The narcissist and the psychopath exploit those who drift. They prey on unawareness, on passivity, on the refusal to take responsibility. The moment you become awake, the moment you anchor yourself in responsibility, you become far harder to manipulate. There's also a moral dimension to this. Responsibility is not just about protecting yourself. It is about becoming someone who contributes to the strength of others. When you take responsibility for your time and your awareness, you don't just free yourself from manipulation, you model strength for those around you. You show them that it is possible to live with clarity, with boundaries, with dignity. In that sense, your personal responsibility ripples outward. It becomes a gift to others, but make no mistake, this path is demanding. To live in awareness is to confront hard truths. To live with responsibility is to sacrifice comfort for integrity. It is easier to blame others, easier to wait for someone else to save you, easier to hope that time alone will fix everything. But time without responsibility does not heal, it corrodes, it leaves you bitter, cynical, and stagnant. Responsibility, on the other hand, transforms time into growth. So the choice is stark. Time will pass either way. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you use it to become sharper, stronger, wiser? Or will you let it slip through your fingers, repeating the same cycles of blindness and pain? This is why time is the most beautiful teacher, but also the most demanding. It reveals truth, it heals pain, and it gives you the chance to grow, but only if you are willing to listen. And listening to time requires that you stay awake. It requires that you take responsibility for your own life, for your own patterns, for your own future. Because in the end, time is not just teaching you about others. It is teaching you about yourself. It is showing you what you tolerate, what you ignore, what you refuse to face. It is teaching you that the quality of your life is not simply a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice, repeated day after day, and how you respond to what time places before you.